Shabbat Shalom. Passover has concluded. We've returned to our chametz, to our bread, but we certainly haven't returned to normal life. We're still apart, still maintaining distance, and still looking for ways to connect. And we celebrate Shabbat again and welcome you, at least virtually, back into our Shar sanctuary. And we begin our service with Magen Avot, with part of a special blessing that's included in the Friday night prayers. This blessing is an abbreviated repetition of the Amidah, and it was instituted on Friday nights. This special prayer of Magen Avot was instituted in order to delay the service just a little bit, because there were people who were late or people who would be delayed in prayer, and we didn't want them, and we would never want them, to have to walk home alone. And even in the structure of our prayers, we do our best to make sure that no one is alone. Magen Avot.
Magen Avot bidvaro mechayem etim b'ma'abaro hakel hakadosh she'en kamohu המניח לעמו ביום שבת קודשו כי בם רצה להניח להם לפניו נעבוד אחד ונודה לשמו בכל יום תמיד בכל יום תמיד מעין הברכות כל ההודעות אדון השלום מקדש השבת ומברך שביעי ומניח בקדושה לעמדו שני עונג זכר למעשה וראשית.
We now recite a Mishaberach L'cholim, a prayer for the sick, a prayer that takes on renewed significance during these difficult times. In the middle of this prayer, as we ask God to bring healing to those who are ill, we'll pause and invite everyone to say the names of people, even at home, people whom you know are unwell. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Moshe Aaron David Shlomo v'Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah, hu yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholim. May God heal all who are sick. And as we pray for those who are ill, we also ask that God heal all who are afflicted with this virus. And may God protect all of those on the front lines, all who are involved in healing and caring for those who are afflicted, together with all of the sick of Israel. Bavor shanu mitpalim bavaram b'schazeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu yamalei rachamim alehem lachlimam rapatam lachzikam lachayotam v'yishlach lehem mehera refuah shlema min hashamayim lechol evreim lechogidem b'toch shara choli Yisrael refuah tanefesh refuah taguf, a healing of the soul and a healing of the body. Hashta b'galav izman kariv v'nomar Amen. We now continue with the blessing for the new month, with the Birkat HaChodesh, as we bless the new month of Iyar, which will take place this coming Friday and next Shabbat. Iyar, of course, is contained within the Omer period, those days on the Jewish calendar without celebrations. But it includes these two islands of celebration, Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel's Independence Day, and Yom Yerushalayim, when we commemorate that day in 1967 when Jerusalem became part of sovereign Israel.
מי שעשה ניסים לאבותינו וגאל אותם מעבדות לחירות הוא יגאל אותנו, הוא יגאל אותנו, הוא יגאל אותנו בקרוב. הוא יגאל אותנו בקרוב, ויקבץ נידחינו מארבע כנפות הארץ, ויקבץ נידחינו מארבע כנפות הארץ. חברים, כל ישראל, חברים, כל ישראל, ונאמר ראש חודש אייר יהיה ביום שישי וביום שבת קודש הבא עלינו ועל כל ישראל לטובה. הבו לאדוני בנרים, הבו לאדוני כבוד ועוז, הבו לאדוני כבוד שמו, השתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש, כל אדוני על המים, אל הכבוד הרים אדוני על מים רבים, כל אדוני בכוח, כל אדוני בהדר, כל אדוני שובר ארזים, וישבר אדוני את ארזי הלבנון, וירקידם כמו עגל, לבנון וסיריון כמו בן רמים. כל אדוני חוצב להבות אש, כל אדוני יכיל מדבר, יכיל אדוני מדבר קדש, כל אדוני יכולל לילות, ויחשוף יערות, ובהיכלו כולו מרכבות. אדוני למבול ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו ושלום.
I once had the opportunity to welcome into the sanctuary for a tour in the middle of the week a group of seminarians, a group of Catholic students who were studying for priesthood. And they looked around the sanctuary, as many guests often do, and took in the majesty of this space, and they asked me as to the meaning of the words on the walls. And on one wall in the front, it says, V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha, and you shall love the Lord your God. And on the other wall it says, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor as yourself. And I explained that this represents the balance of our tradition, that we love, on the one hand, we have love for God and love for our religion. On the other hand, that has to come, that has to be coupled with love for each other, with love for humanity. One can never come at the expense of the other. And they asked me, they said, does this mean that love is the most important value in your tradition? And it got me to thinking, because what is the core value? If you ask any number of sages, as they did in Talmudic times, what's the klal gadol b'Torah? What's the great principle of the Torah? You'll get different answers. What is the great concept of our tradition? And I'll argue that one great concept, in addition to love, in addition to fear, in addition to faith, one great concept is that of responsibility. That we are commanded individually, not only as a collective, but individually to show responsibility. And there's one great example of that in our Parsha this week, as we'll read from Parashat Shmini. There's a verse that describes, and that says, Vayavo Moshe v'Aaron el Ohel Moed, that Moses and Aaron entered the tent of meeting, Vayetzu vayevarchu et ha'am, and then they left and they blessed the nation. Vayerach kvod Adonai el kol ha'am, and the glory of God was then revealed to the people. And the question that many of the commentators, including Rashi, ask is, why did Moses and Aaron enter the tent of meeting? What was the purpose of this visit? And Rashi notes that there was a really interesting dynamic that was at play, because Aaron was in charge of offering all of the sacrifices, of performing the entire service of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. And when he finished that service, he expected something truly great to happen. Rashi says that when Aaron saw that all the offerings had been brought, and yet the divine presence had still not descended to Israel, he became distressed. And he said, I know that the Holy One, blessed be He, is angry with me, and it is because of me that the divine presence has not descended to Israel. And thereby his brother Moshe stepped forward, and together they entered the tent of meeting to pray for mercy, and it was only then that the divine presence descended from Israel. There's a very significant lesson to be found in Aaron's statement. When he saw that his work wasn't achieving what it needed to, when he saw that all the offerings had been brought, but the divine presence was not yet there. Because our Musar masters, those who looked at the ethical components of the Torah, noted that when the divine presence didn't descend, what could Aaron have done? And what do so many of us do when we don't achieve the expectations that we wish, that we set for ourselves, when we don't see the results of our actions? What do? We blame others. We look around us and says, whose fault is it that my actions didn't result in what I wished? Whose fault is it that we are not where we should be? Whose fault is it? And let's start pointing fingers as I stand here in an empty sanctuary. Whose fault is it that we're here? Whose fault is it that we're not here? How do we assign the blame? That's the big question. But what Aaron did, what the high priest did, was something quite extraordinary. He, instead of looking around to see whose fault it was, instead he said, I need to examine my own responsibilities. I need to examine my own deeds and strive to improve them. I saw a beautiful comparison, an analysis that compared this concept to a group of paupers who were sitting around in shul and talking about the rich synagogue, the wealthy synagogue. And the paupers said, do you know that in the wealthy synagogue on Simchat Torah, they give out between each hakafah, 7 hakafot, and between each one, they give out the finest wine. They pour bottles and bottles of wine and open barrels and barrels of wine to celebrate Simchat Torah. Don't you know that happens at the wealthy synagogue? And this pauper's friends, who were equally impoverished, they laughed and sighed and they said, well, of course, that's the way they do it there because they have everything they need, but we could never do that here. Where would we get the wine? And they noted, wait a second, we do have a little bit of wine that we bring out every Shabbat. I have an idea, said one of them. Why not every Shabbat, if we pour just a little bit of wine into a barrel, we're going to set aside a barrel in the corner, and every Shabbat, each person will take from their glass and pour just a little bit into the barrel. You know what's going to happen on Simchat Torah? You know what will happen a year from now? We're going to have a full barrel of wine that's been collected throughout the year, and we're going to celebrate Simchat Torah just like they do in the synagogue where they have everything. And they agreed, and they carried out that plan. And then on Simchat Torah, the barrel was opened up, all excited to see this great collection of wine. But when they peered inside, they saw that, much to their dismay, the barrel was not filled with wine, but it was filled with water. What a disappointment. And they all looked at one another. Why is this barrel that each of us have been contributing a little glass or a little bit of wine each week? Why is this barrel now filled with water? And each of them knew that they were guilty because the truth emerged. Throughout, they each had the same thought. Well, I'm going to pour in a little bit of water because everyone else is pouring in wine. And my little drop of water won't be noticed because everyone else is doing what they should. But little did they know that they were all assuming that everyone else would contribute to solve the problem, but they themselves didn't have to. I'm sure no one will notice, they said. And this continued until the barrel became full of water. And the same idea is applied to everyone. Everyone is aware of just how important it is to rectify one's own character traits, to improve oneself. And yet each person thinks, let the other person do better first. Let the other person correct what's wrong with them first, and then I'll correct myself. Aharon, in his actions, in his encountering disappointment and looking towards himself, he taught that in order to make change, before looking outward, we must look inward. And I might suggest that in our rituals, this is one of the reasons why when we recite the Shema in the morning and the evening, that central prayer of Jewish faith, when we recite the Shema, we cover our eyes. Because to experience truth, to really engage with these concepts and these words of the Lord is our God, the Lord is one, we have to block out all the other distractions, block out our expectations of others in terms of their growth, and understand that our primary focus begins within. We join together for Shema as we say it in the Shabbat Musaf Kedusha.
Shema Yisrael, Hashem מלכנו השם אחד. והוא ישמיענו, והוא ישמיענו, ישמיענו ברחמיו, והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שנית, והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שנית, שנית לעיני כל חי. להיות לכם לאלוקים אני השם אלוקיכם.
We are grateful that you have shared this time with us, that we can be together to welcome yet another Shabbat. May Shabbat bring healing and hope to you, to your families, to our community, to the entire world. As General George Marshall said in 1943, he said, "The end is not yet clearly in sight, but victory is certain." Shabbat Shalom. We now conclude with Adon Olam.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא וחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה והוא אחד ואין שני להמשיל לו להכבירה בלי ראשית בלי תכלית ולא העוז והמשרה והוא כלי וחי גואלי וצור חבלי בעת צרה והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, בידו אפקיד רוחי, בית אישן ואעירה, ועם רוחי גוויעתי, השם לי ולא אירא, אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא.